Cool. Thanks a lot, Deanna, and thanks, Colin, everyone at the Tree Reading Series for having me. It's been awesome to be here already, and I'm excited to read for you guys. Thanks for everyone that read at the open mic. That was a really great collection to listen to, and you guys are all really good. So I'm going to throw down some poems here, and I'm going to start with a few from the collection. We are no longer the smart kids in class, and then I'm going to move on to some new stuff. So one of the themes of the collection is about disillusionment, and so my dad's calling me right now. That's weird. I'm trying to time my reading, but my dad's phoning, which leads into the my preamble for the next poem. Everyone, you can hear me, Rach? Okay, cool. So the next poem is the first in a few that I'll read about this theme of disillusionment, about being no longer the smart kid in class, which is a tragedy that we all live through, I think, at some point. And this one is called Why Our Parents Worked So Hard. And my mom's here in the audience, so it might betray some of the things that were going on in my teenage years, but we'll see how she reacts to that. She had no idea. Okay, why our parents worked so hard. You catch the spider between a water glass and a piece of paper. You put it on the table. It's a big one, about the size of a head of garlic. It feels its way around the space, soon realizing there's no way out. It stands still, clever thing, to preserve the oxygen. You light the joint and lift the glass. You blow a steady stream of smoke and put the glass back down. You watch the spider forget how to walk. It stumbles and slows. A few minutes pass. The spider stops moving. You are asleep on the couch. Yeah, people sometimes laugh when I read that one, and I'm like, yeah, surprised by that. So that was the reaction I was going for.
Stunned silence?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Yeah, stunned silence. That's the reaction. Thanks, guys. The next one's a little bit of a shift from this, and this is another quasi-true story, although all the stories are, of course, entirely fictional. This one, we had a chat about hockey earlier at dinner, and this one is about hockey, about my own hockey ambitions, and it's called Ridiculous Gods. Ridiculous Gods. When you were 7, your father told you you'd never make the NHL. You cried then. You wailed to your gods. Pavel Bure, Kirk Muller, Ron McLean. Your father gasped and clung to the wheel, and he cried to his gods too. Ken Dryden, Peter Zosky, John Dunn. The world unfolded as it does. You took your MA in English, prepared to join the family business. You became a phenom of Friday night pickup, chased the scoring race in the Thursday men's league, and that classmate, the one who was drafted but couldn't quite make the cut, whose talents you'd coveted with a crazed, disorienting lust, who wasn't quite Sidney Crosby but played several years of Swedish pro. You remember how at junior high practice his dad always said, at least they're having fun, and you forgive your father and his ridiculous gods. And I'm going to do one more in the spiral of disillusionment, and this one relates to the experience of going to grad school. So I did my MA at the University of Victoria, and there's a couple of poems in the collection that kind of grew out of that experience. Here's one of them. It's called In Case You Were Wondering. The first step was losing the trench coat. Then you came to Shakespeare class bare-nailed and stripped of eyeliner. A week later, the lipstick was gone. It wasn't that you were turning your back on your post-punk roots. You were simply becoming a poet. Not like Ginsberg or Bukowski. You were more the English breakfast type. You began to talk about Larkin, measure your scotch by the finger. You started putting After Ted Hughes beneath the titles of your poems. You didn't know I was on the bus the day I heard you speaking at full volume about enjambment, metonymy, and the gustatory image. You used the word prosody several times in a sentence, and that was enough. The sweater vest was too much. Soon it was a mustache, a bow tie, and a wispy grad student girlfriend. By the end, there was no need to tell me. I knew. I wouldn't be receiving any more of your late-night texts. But, in case you were wondering, I haven't deleted them. And from time to time, I still show this one around at parties. I want to hunt your Moby Dick all night. Love, Captain Ahab. So, just trying to look at my time here. Okay, yeah, I'm good. I'm going to read a poem. I've gone through my mother and my father already, so I'm going to read one about my sister, who's also in attendance. It's a fictional version of my sister, obviously. It's not really about my sister. I ruined it. Okay. My sister features in this poem. What I will remember most about Christmas 2011. You know, I'm not going to do that one. Sorry. Thanks for understanding. Regrouping right now. Okay, I'm going to do one. This one's called Spring Melt Fernie. And it's about, I lived in Fernie for a season. I also lived in Revelstoke. And you know when you, anyone who spent time in BC probably knows the experience of like driving down the highway in spring and all the mountains are avalanching. And there's like these huge, massive mounds of dirty snow at the sides of the road. And it's a very crazy thing just to watch the earth kind of shed its skin in that way. So that's what this is about. It's called Spring Melt Fernie. Not nature, because you're wary of the idea. Don't abide the poets and their oil-slick whispers. Not nature, but a place to encounter elk, marmots, eagles, and the needle-sharp bite of glacial air. A place where you find severity on the sides of highways. Massive boulders of rotting snow, filled with snapped branches, uprooted trees, reminding you that these vast surfaces break off in slabs and slide. Okay, I'm going to do the title poem of the book. This is called The Smart Kids. And this one also was kind of germinating in Victoria. And I used to smoke cigarettes back in the dark ages. And I've been clean for a while now, so it's pretty good. But one of the things I used to do in Victoria was stand out on my front porch and smoke cigarettes a lot. And I used to do a lot of cogitating out there. And I used to look out, and my view was a very scenic view of a gas station, which was directly across from my apartment building. And it was an Esso, beautiful Esso, breathtaking. And it had this little patch of grass out front, and these deer would always come up. So I'd be out there smoking cigarettes in the middle of the night, looking at a gas station, and deer are eating the grass and the vegetation growing out of the gas station, which was always which I felt was a striking image, and something that I try to deal with in this poem. It's called The Smart Kids. The Yates Street shell is the center of my universe. It breathes Lego red and mustard yellow into the windows of my capital G green neighborhood. At night, the stars and the moon hide behind this Nickelodeon miasma as I bathe in the hemp soap serenity of British Columbian evenings. Late night walks with like-minded companions, a bearded Marxist and a well-traveled farm girl. Unearth the agony of our graduate seminars. We are no longer the smart kids in class. Down the street, there's a cedar that was once the center of this universe. Now Now its leaves breathe gas station gleam, while unhomed deer gnaw its weary husk. I don't notice, and if I did, I wouldn't care. When I round the corner past this tree and glimpse the red beacon that never strays too far from $1.26, I know I'm home. So I abide the fungus of unease as I slide beneath the sheets and watch the lazy mating dance of phosphorescence and glass, forgetting to wonder who, if anyone, is at fault. Okay, I'm going to do, I think, one more from the collection, and then I'm going to read a few newbies. This one's called 24 Abandoned Attempts at the Beginning of My First Novel. 1. And then. 2. Years later. 3. The following day. 4. Happily ever after. 5. That was the night he put a gun in his mouth. And 6. Susan looked up, mid-blowjob, and realized where she was. In the back of a taxi on the outskirts of Mexico City, giving head to an orangutan, while a 14-year-old girl in knee-high pumps took pictures from the passenger seat. This was not good. The orangutan began to pleasure himself. The last thing Susan remembered was Calgary, the owner's box of the Saddle Dome, someone inviting her to the dressing room to meet a couple of players, Yoli and Tika. Their names meant nothing to her, but she'd heard they had a pretty good coke connection and were hung like giraffes with more girth. There was champagne, and that rich perv with the plugs was leering at her. A girlfriend handed her a pill, and then this. She glanced at her reflection in the rear view. Her eyes looked like they'd been clawed at by bloodthirsty raccoons for the past 48 hours. Her gaze flicked from the mirror to the road. Up ahead, some asshole was trying to veer through all 6 lanes to get to the other side of the freeway. A cacophony of horns fired up, sounding like 1,000 gigantic anuses. 6 or 7 vehicles had to slam on the brakes and swerve to miss this lunatic. Then he crashed into a motorcyclist, sending the poor bastard careening into a spiral of unfathomable carnage. I yanked on the emergency brake, slid into a U-turn. The orangutan was coming. 7. In the beginning was the 8. A long time ago in a galaxy. 9. We were somewhere around Lethbridge on the edge of the prairies when the beef began to take hold. 10. It happened on the day I was face-fucked. 11. On the outskirts of Gotham City. 12. In the depths of the Batcave. 13. Alfred. 14. Last night I fell asleep on the toilet again. 15. I was always secretly in love with. 16. My favorite kind of porn involved. 17. As a child I had a crush on this girl named 18. Leslie. 19. Leslie was. 20. My father. 21. Cats. 22. As I write this, I'm surrounded by cats. Literally. There are mountains of the fuckers all around me. They're all over my body. Legs, neck, shoulders, head, hands. I'm submerged in the undergrowth of a veritable feline jungle. I can barely bring my hands to the keyboard. This is what life is like in the year 3094. The smells are unbearable. Cat shit, cat piss, cat puke, cat semen, cat food. Yes, they have cat food here. Don't ask me how. But there are huge stockpiles of these little tins of wet cat food. Landfills overflowing with the dry stuff. To tell you the truth, I haven't eaten anything but cat food for the past 8 years. I have no clue if they make the stuff or, if not, where it comes from. One thing is clear. These cats are smart. Smarter than me, that's for sure. The great human brain is finally obsolete, vanquished, overthrown. Who would have thought cats? All you have to do is look into their godforsaken eyes to know how murderous they are. The expression is always the same. Cold, cunning, implacable. They can sense how much I hate them, and they love it. I love to stick my thumbs right in there, pull the eyeballs out, eat them for dinner. I'd use their little food tins for a plate. Right now, about 500 cats are rubbing their backs against me. The rest are clawing at my body. I'm a goddamn human scratching post. I have to cover myself with layers of wool to prevent them from getting at my flesh. Needless to say, this gets quite hot in the summer. And it never ends. They never tire of their scratching, never relent from their torturous screams. Meow, meow. The ceaseless, harrowing clamor. It's unbearable. Sometimes I wish I could just end it all. 23. Tonight I'm going to end it all. 24. The end. So that's all I'm going to read from the book. You get the idea, right? Yeah. the novel is still working through the abandoned attempts with the novel. So, cats is a theme, among other animals, that I continue to explore later in the kind of stuff that I'm working on now, which is working towards a book called Alkaline Purr of poetry. And so this one is called Closeted, and it's kind of in a similar vein. Well, not a similar vein, but a natural outgrowth of this engagement that I was dealing with. It's called Closeted. Your closet is the same size as mine, which neither of us thinks is fair. The cat reposes in yours, shed fur turning that black backpack into a hairy critter, knapsackle sloth. Mine holds hockey skates, drying from last night's shinny. You don't like the smell. But this isn't about my feet. It's about your closet, our cat. What I'm trying to say is something about the feel of your kimono, how it only excites me when your skin's underneath. The strings of your dresses dangle now, little girl legs on buses, and the cat swats. No doubt I'm projecting. The right word must start with anthropo. But I insist she paws those dangly bits because she misses you. What I'm trying to say has something to do with the way your closet looks the same when you're not here. How that's scary and comforting. How I went in there for the first time and just sniffed, conjuring the chimp in me to smell the bonobo in you. How maybe that was weird, but at least I didn't try on your clothes. Or did I? Would you mind? And this is another newer one, and it's called Wild in Me, and it's pantoum. So if it sounds like I'm repeating the same lines, it's not like delusion or, I'm doing that on purpose. Wild in me. How to recall this wild in me. My toes have forgotten how to grasp. Now pallid feet push pedals, deaf, to strut of songs from time before. My toes have forgotten how to grasp. This mouthy mind won't let me hear the strut of songs from time before, when hand steps whispered, soft as rain. This mouthy mind won't let me hear the time before this motor roar, when hand steps whispered, soft as rain, each murmur hummed and purred in me. The time before this motor roar, each blade of grass a lilting tongue, each murmur hummed and purred in me, each color peeled, and death was young. Each blade of grass a lilting tongue, teeth wandering from bite to song, each color peeled, and death was young, and life was heaving, mending, gone. Now pallid feet push pedals deaf, and charging through explosive truth. There's no such time as time before, but I recalled this wild, this me. So I'm looking at the time, and I think I'll do one more, a little more upbeat one to take us into the break. Does that sound good? Sure. Yeah, okay, cool. So this one is kind of derives again from my continued sojourns through academic limbo. And do you ever, anybody familiar with academic books may know that the titles can be somewhat unimaginative. And, it's understandable because they're like designed to explain what they're talking about, not to like be too flowery about it. But this one kind of takes that idea and kind of riffs on it. So it was like, in the library at Western, you can find like feminism and its discontents, modernism and its discontents, communism and its discontents, object-oriented ontology and its discontents, etc., and on, right? So yeah, that's what I'm kind of trying to play with here. And it begins with, it's called Titles and Their Discontents, and it begins with quotation, "A title is never finished, it is only abandoned. And this is a misquotation of W.H. Auden paraphrasing Paul Valéry. 1. Paradise glossed. 1. Paradise glossed. Paradise tossed. Paradise embossed. Paradise double-crossed. Paradise lost and found. Paradise 2, the dashboard light. Paradise walking in Memphis. Paradise lust. Paradise chuffed. Paradise rebuffed. Paradise burgers drenched in paradise sauce. Paradise tossed. 2. What we talk about when we talk about fuzz. What we talk about when we talk about duds. What we talk about when we talk about mild winters. What we talk about when we rock sold-out clubs. What we talk about when we're withholding killer stories about ourselves. What we talk about when we talk about duckface. What we talk about when we talk about making a murderer. What we talk about when we talk about aggressive minimalism. What we talk about when we talk about James Franco's course at NYU. What we talk about when we talk about toxic, festering envy. What we talk about when we talk about Raymond Carver. What we talk about when we talk about aggressive minimalism and hard luck wisdom. What we talk about when we talk about the new sincerity. What we talk about when we talk about big hearts through tiny keyholes. What we talk about when we talk about earning your epiphanies. What we talk about when we talk about alcoholism and proletarian angst. What we talk about when we talk about the anxiety of influence. What we talk about when we box without gloves. 3. Civilization and its impotence. Civilization and its increments. Civilization and inadequate vents. Civilization incontinence. Civilization and its discotheques. Civilization and increasing rent. Civilization and its distinct sense. Civilization and its discus events. Civilization's angry, distant parents. Civilization and its circus tents. Civilized nations and itemized descent. Civil migrations and itinerants. Civil vibrations in convents. 4. Gore and peace. Mangled Karenina. Do androids scheme in a restless sleep? The old man and the seizure. The bun also rises. The sun also rides us. The gun also sizest. The nun also metastasizes. Fear and loathing in bodegas. Fear and loathing in tornadoes. Fear and loathing in Krakatoa. A tale of two pretty white boys. Rad behavior. Batch 22. Grave New World. Chores and grease. Beer and trembling. Of mice and menopause. Sir Gawain and the dream flight. Irate Gatsby. Beyond the severed principle. What we talk about when we talk about civilizations dreaming lost paradises of discontent. Great. So that's me.